Hi guys, so today I'm talking to you about titles in X-Wing, as well as other ship-specific upgrades, but most commonly titles. So if you've played X-Wing for a little while now, you've probably seen certain things that are faction-specific. Certain characters, certain crew might say, you know, Imperial only, or Rebel only, or Scum only. So that's one of the restrictions that you will sometimes see, but as you play more and you discover more upgrades, you're going to see that there are ship-specific things as well. And now sometimes for ships that carry over, that will mean like a BTL title for a Y-Wing is Y-Wing only, but it's not restricted by faction. So you can use this on a Rebel Y-Wing, and you can also use this on a Scum Y-Wing. So it's very important to note the restrictions there. But there's sometimes some confusion as regards to titles, so I want to talk a little bit about titles today, and some of the basic rules, as well as some of the exceptions and the weird things that will arise lately with titles. So basically, when you're equipping a title, the rule is that you have to have the entirety of the text featured in the ship card. So if something says X-Wing only, like let's take a look at Integrated Astromech. The Integrated Astromech says X-Wing only. Now obviously this can go on an X-Wing, but there's also a T-70 X-Wing, which does contain the words X-Wing. So yes, you can put Integrated Astromech on the T-70. Now this is abundantly clear because, for one, the Integrated Astromech comes with the T-70 X-Wing, so they're not going to put something in an expansion that the ship itself can't even use. But also in the article where they were talking about T-70 X-Wings, they talked about the Integrated Astromech as, you know, as part of their recommended builds. So for something that says X-Wing only, if you had something else that was tacked onto the X-Wing, like T-80 X-Wing, if they ever, if they ever come out with more X-Wings, you'll be able to put Integrated Astromech on any ship that says X-Wing. All right. So there are other things as well that are, there's some modifications. For example, the B-Wing has a modification that's B-Wing only. It's not always titles, but it's most commonly found on titles. So there are some other things that talk about some ship-specific restrictions. Let's take a look at Youngster. All right, Youngster talks about TIE fighters and friendly TIE fighters. This was clarified because some people had a question if it has TIE and fighter in it. So some people said, well, what about the First Order TIE fighters? Because they're TIE FO fighters. Well, they do contain TIE and fighter, so they are considered TIE fighters, even though they have an FO in between. So it doesn't have to be all in a row, it just has to have the same exact words in there. Now this and that one's a little counterintuitive, so some people at first glance might not realize that. And the same goes for docking clamps. It says you can equip TIE fighters, and you can do that. And the same thing, if they come up with TIE FO interceptors, they will still count as TIE interceptors. So anything that is restricted to a TIE interceptor only would also be able to go on a TIE FO interceptor, if we ever see a TIE FO interceptor. I also want to talk about the TIE Mark II. The TIE Mark II is restricted to anything that says TIE. So anything that has T, I, and E in it can equip that. Now that's great. It's not a title, but still it's following the same rules. And that one's a little more broad, and that's one of the few ship-specific upgrades that can go on a lot of different ships. So that's pretty cool. And anything that ever says TIE on it can take that. All right, now let's look at one of my favorite examples of this, which, well, I guess you could say maybe my least favorite, was the X1 title. So we're going to talk about the TIE Advanced. Now the TIE Advanced kind of spawned a lot of this controversy because they eventually came out with a TIE Advanced prototype. And one of the first questions, and I was in favor of, well, can the TIE Advanced prototype take the X1 title? Because the X1 title says TIE Advanced only, and the TIE Advanced prototype is a TIE Advanced. It just also has the word prototype. And the ruling was no, because the TIE Advanced prototype is actually abbreviated to TIE ADV, period. So that abbreviation means that it's slightly different and therefore cannot take the X1 title. Some people argued if it could, it would be overpowered or whatever, and I understand that, but I looked at it from a lore perspective. Well, it's still an X1, and maybe you're just upgrading, upgrading an X1. I don't know, but I wanted you to be able to take it. But it was ruled that you couldn't because it's not the exact same wording. Fair enough. And now the V1 specifically says TIE ADV prototype. So I knew what ADV stood for. I knew it meant advanced, but okay, the rules are the wording has to be perfect. No problem. However, there's a problem with this, and so now we're getting into the quirks and some of the little goofs that FFG has made over the years, and I understand because it's a big game, it's grown quite a lot. Let's talk about the Imperial Raider. Now, the Raider was the first huge ship for the Empire, and the Raider has titles, and because it's got such a long name, they actually had to abbreviate this. Now, the titles are pretty interesting. So all of the titles for the Raider say Raider Class Corvette Aft Section only. All right. Now, that's fine. It's a Raider Class Corvette, and you're only putting the title on one section of it because it has 2 ship cards. But if you look at the ship card itself, it's abbreviated, where it says Corv dot instead of Corvette. So if you're following the same logic as the TIE Advanced prototype, not being a TIE Advanced because it's abbreviated, then by that same logic, the Raider couldn't take its own titles. Now, here's a situation where you have to look at, rules as written versus rules as intended. They obviously didn't intend for you not to be able to use the Raider titles on the Raider that it comes with. So even though to the letter of the law, it's, you can't use it, of course you can use it. And don't ever be that person that says you can't use it. So as it applies to titles, sometimes you have to think outside the box just a little bit. Which brings me to the latest example in the TIE Aggressor. The TIE Aggressor has the word aggressor in it. Now the IG-2000 title says aggressor only because, there's another ship called an aggressor. It's the IG-2000. IG-88's ship is an aggressor. And so it comes with this title of the IG-2000 unless you share all your unique pilot abilities. Well, right now, if the ship were to come out today, and it's not out, probably won't be out until Gen Con, you would be able to take the IG-2000 title on it as printed because it says aggressor only, and the TIE Aggressor has the word aggressor in there in its entirety. Based on all the previous examples, yes, you would be able to take this. However, it's clear that this was not their intent. They didn't want you to use IG-2000's custom ship title on a TIE Aggressor. The two aren't even closely related. Like if IG-88 was one of the pilots for the TIE Aggressor, then like maybe he was doing some Imperial faction work, then maybe you would be like, okay, so you can take it. That's what their intent was. Also, if that was their intent, they would have probably talked about it in the article where they kind of preview this ship. So it's clear to everybody involved that is in the discussion right now that no, they did not intend for you to be able to take this title. But if we're following rules as written specifically, then yes, you would be able to use this. Now, what is likely to happen is before this ship launches, they're going to errata the IG-2000 title to make it scum only or something like that, or just put in an FAQ that says no, you can't do that. But this is an important distinction, and the reason I'm talking about it is because there are people arguing both sides, and I think for the most part, the people arguing that you can take an IG-2000 aggressor title on a TIE Aggressor are doing it simply from the standpoint of, look, if we're following rules as written, then this is what you can do. They're just to clarify the written rule. I don't think anybody actually thinks that you can take it. I certainly don't. But if they don't FAQ it, or if they don't errata the IG-2000 title, in a friendly game, I will totally fly the IG-2000 title on a couple of aggressors just to see how much fun that is. Because that would be hilarious. I think it would be hilarious. I wouldn't do it in a tournament or a league or of any serious game because we all know that that's not the intent. It would take FFG basically coming out and deliberately stating that yes, we totally intended that you could do this for that to change people's minds, and I don't think they're going to do that. And I think that if they were going to do that, they would have said so already. So this has been kind of the quick primer on titles. If it has the full name and the restriction, then you can totally use it. If not, then you can't use it. So abbreviations don't count, with the exception of the Imperial Raider Corvette, because it comes with it. Anything a ship comes with, it's going to be able to take, and you kind of have to just follow the rules as intended. Usually, if you just use common sense, you can figure out what's intended. In this case, the IG-2000 is very well meant to be a IG-88 specific upgrade. If they were to put IG-88 on board some other type of ship, then that also happened to be named Aggressor, like maybe an Aggressor Mark 1, like an earlier version of it, then it would be reasonable that, oh, maybe they intended that you can use this, because sometimes things like that will happen. For example, astromechs can go in anything with an astromech slot, and sometimes they'll release a new astromech droid that benefits an older ship, and you're like, whoa, did they see this combo? Well, obviously it's intended because it has the astromech. And the same thing goes with something that says TIE only, like we talked about before. Well, they come up with a new TIE fighter, like a TIE Aggressor is a TIE fighter. It can also take all the TIE only upgrades. It's not a TIE fighter, it is a TIE. So it can take all the TIE only stuff that's out there. So, and that's moving forward, that's going to be the same way forever. So if they don't want something to be able to take a TIE only upgrade, then they're going to have to name it something else. And that's basically the way, or they'll have to FAQ it and deliberately say, in this case, you cannot do that. It's unlikely they'll do that. Usually they'll just name something else because they don't like to errata cards that much, but unfortunately sometimes they have to. So this has been kind of a primer and look at titles, and just to get the discussion going a little bit, because there is some discussion on the 2000. Let me know what you think though. Do you think you're actually able to take the IG 2000 on the TIE Aggressor? I mean, rules as written, yes, but do you think that was their intent? I don't think anybody really thinks that's their intent, but if you think, you know, if you want to make a strong case for it, I'd love to hear from it. But I think most likely that, you know, that it would just be fun to try out, but I would never do that in a serious game. So let me know what you think, guys. And if always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to get, and click the little bell below to get notifications when I upload anything that's new. And stay tuned for hopefully some more X-Wing previews from Wave 11, which should be coming out very soon. And also, by the way, big thing, the C-Rock has got a street date now, June 8th. It will be available, so stay tuned for that. That's going to be really awesome. Some more epic games coming out. C-Rock Cruiser coming out June 8th. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.